How's it going, everybody? This is Specko, and this is part one of my Black Ops sniping guide. You can apply this to pretty much all Call of Duties, but this is more towards Black Ops because this is the current. Starting off, let's a little bit of overview of what I want to demonstrate in this video. There's going to be multiple more, but in this particular one, this is more towards the basics of it. And before I get all these comments about hard scoping and stuff like this is a sniping guide, not a quick scoping guide. Okay, to start off, what is sniping? Sniping is sitting from a concealed spot, covered spot, from most times from elevated position and taking out enemies, and that's pretty much what it is. Not running around like crazy. We'll get into the setup later on, but here's what some of the suggestions for it. And the terminology and things to consider that I'm going to demonstrate later on in the video are sight picture, crosshairs, line of sight, concealment, cover, silhouette, and the track shot and the ambush shot. And there'll be multiple things to come, but as far now, this is more of I guess you could say kind of a part one of a beginner's guide to it. Later on, I'll get into the advanced stuff. But right now, let's go ahead and get into the setup. As far as your setup goes, you're going to be using the L96 with a variable scope and a CZ75 with extended mags, because with extended mags on that bad boy, you got a 18 round magazine and it kills in 3 shots. As far as lethal grenades, it's up to you. Tactical grenades, up to you. It's whatever your choice is. As far as equipment goes, you want to use either the Claymore, motion sensor, or camera spike, depending on your awareness and which one you like best. Motion sensor seems to work the best because, unlike the Claymore, it gives you it's not a one shot, and the motion sensor and the camera spike, you only one direction. As far as your first perk, it's always got to be Ghost. You got to use Ghost whenever you're sniping, especially when you're trying to abuse the hell out of a spot. And as far as your second perk goes, you can use Hardened, Scout, or Sleight of Hand. Hardened for obvious reasons, Sleight of Hand, and Scout because it makes it easier for counter sniping, and Sleight of Hand for it's just mainly whenever you have to use your secondary. It's great. Your third perk, you want to use either Ninja, Hacker, or Marathon. Ninja, if you're wanting the Sound Tour, and you can get Ninja Pro. And Hacker is good for calling out positions, and Marathon is good for getting you in where you need to be. And also, if you have the spare classes, make different camos for different environments, corresponding with your weapon and your face paint. Now let's discuss the sight picture. Sight picture is what you see whenever you look down your scope. So everything that you see here inside of the black is your sight picture. You can change your sight picture with this variable scope by zooming in, by increasing your sight picture, and making your sight picture smaller. And it depends on the distance of your shot, how much you want to have. Every time you want to have your entire target inside of your sight picture. By quite a bit, and it just makes it for easier shots. Now, the next is your crosshairs. Crosshairs is where the lines meet in the middle of your scope, and that's where your round is supposed to hit whenever you fire. Next is line of sight. Line of sight is literally that. It is what everything you can see in the direction you are looking. Think of it as a beam of light, and your line of sight is broken if something is in front of it. Say, for example, you can't see Beowulf on the other side if your line of sight does not cover him because of the walls. And it's something you need to consider, to where a position where somebody's at, what are all the line of sights to be able to see where he is. And there's multiple lines of sight on where he is, not just where I'm at, but in other positions. And also another thing to remember with line of sight is part of it is whenever the big mistake people make is they come out and they run up against a window when they're in a window shooting out of it, or even just sitting there. They run up against it, and whenever you do that, it puts your weapon sticking out about 3 feet out the window, and you can be seen from anywhere. That way, you want to back up a little bit. That way, you can still have line of sight on people. You don't have to stick your gun out the window. And right here, Bill's going to demonstrate what it looks like from the outside. You see, he's right up against the window, and his weapon sticks way out. But all you got to do is back up a little bit, and you'll no longer show. See, this is what people do. This is a no-no. Do not do this, because this is just asking to get shot. You just back up a little bit, And no matter where you're at, just stay away from it. And you can still look all the way everywhere you would before, you just don't stick your gun out the window. Next we have concealment. Concealment is exactly that, being concealed. And that's something like this. Just a perfect example. Sitting in a bush to where people can't see you. That's concealment. Concealment isn't always the best thing because it doesn't provide cover, which something we'll provide next. And also, that's not concealment. That's just sticking your head out top of a bush. Whenever you are concealed, it's going to be hard for you to see most of the time. This will be about what you'll expect. Is you're going to have to shoot through some of what you're covered by. So you're as part of being concealed, unless you're being concealed by shadows in a window or something like that, you're going to have it's going to take a little less of your it's going to take away from your sight picture and you won't be able to see as much. Next you have cover. Cover is where you're at a spot where you're not completely concealed, but it protects you from enemy fire. A bush will not protect you from a bullet. This big old wall will. And right here is an example of cover, and where Beowulf just was, and it is excellent example of cover. This is a perfect spot to where all it's over is your head, and that makes it an extremely hard shot for the enemy, and a great cover. Cover, if you can, you won't cover and concealment, but most time, as far as how these maps are set up and everything, you're not going to be able to find cover and concealment. They were smart enough about it to make it where it would be way too easy to snipe if there was multiple spots on these maps where you could have both. Another thing to consider is silhouette, which is extremely important. It's a silhouette. When you silhouette yourself, it's whenever you create an outline around yourself that against where you're against something in the backdrop that is completely different contrast than your character. Right there on that sniper spot on jungle is a perfect example of how people silhouette themselves and make it to where they're extremely easy to see. That's something you don't want to do. You want to find something. You want to have something behind you, and I'll show you a perfect example of this here in a second. Right here, Beowulf is going to show you this is not silhouetting yourself. Whenever you have something behind you that's in similar contrast, this is silhouetting yourself. You're much easier to see whenever you don't have anything behind you that kind of conceals where you're at. Not silhouetting yourself, right here, you see, he's much harder to see. Whenever he steps in front of the window, much easier to see. So this is what you're going for. You want something behind you at all times. Unless you're in a shadowed dark area. That'll keep you from silhouetting yourself as well. Next we have the two basic sniper rifle shots that you'll make. The first one's called a track shot, and the track shot means you track them with your crosshairs and then you fire. This is a little bit of a harder shot than you would the other one, but this is what most people do. And here it is in slow motion to give you kind of a better look at what I'm talking about. And this is the ambush shot. It makes those shots, long distance moving target shots, a lot easier. And what you do is you just place the crosshairs where you know the enemy's going to be, and then whenever they walk into it, you fire. And I'll give you a look at it in slow-mo real quick to kind of show you exactly what happens. Alright guys, that's it for part 1, and be on the lookout for part 2 and many more in the near future. Alright guys, this is Specko, and I will see you later.